You have not been clickbaited. This is a new Watchtower that just came out, and under questions from readers, a section they commonly have whenever they are making any type of changes to their doctrine, and it asks the question, when will the current preaching work end? I know if I was a Jehovah's Witness, I would be very curious what this article is all about, and as an ex-witness, I'm equally curious what this is all about. So let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and tonight, I already released one video today, but we're doing a BOGO 2-for-1 special, so slap your knee and say yee-haw.
Yes, man, good game. Stop it!
What's the normal intro? Quickly, before we get into it, don't forget to drop a like on the video. It helps get out to more people on YouTube, and I have a goal. I have a dream that this channel may be able to reach 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Who knows? Maybe 45,000. Maybe we should set the dream higher, set the goal in the stars and shoot at it and see what moon bits fall off. Wow, I don't know how I could manage to butcher that many different expressions in such a short time. You know what to do. With all of that being said, let's jump right into this so I can stop the most hellacious intro this channel maybe has ever seen, and that's really saying something. When will the current preaching work end? So I'm just gonna open up the flow of consciousness here and we'll take it in all together. Here we go. Jesus stated, "This good news of the kingdom will be preached in all the inhabited earth for a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." The Greek word translated end in this verse, as well as in verses 6 and 13, is telos. It refers to the final end of Satan's world at Armageddon. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have like an old songbook that used to have telos end or telos Armageddon, something like that, back in the 50s, where they would refer to that. So that's like an old-timey Jehovah's Witness doctrine. It's a callback. Anyway, thus we will continue to preach the good news until just before the final end. This adjusts our earlier understanding. Previously, we understood that we would stop preaching the good news when the Great Tribulation began with the destruction of Babylon the Great. For those that don't know, Babylon the Great is all other religions that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. This event, we believed, would mark the end of the figurative year of Jehovah's goodwill. We also felt that those who survived the Great Tribulation would prove their devotion to Jehovah before that event. And yes, that was changed 2 annual meetings ago. We compared them to the Jews who survived the destruction of Jerusalem in the fake year of 607 BCE. These individuals had been marked for survival earlier because they worshiped Jehovah and hated wickedness. That comparison, however, does not harmonize with Jesus' words found at Matthew 24:14, which indicate that people may have the opportunity to respond to the good news until just before the final end at Armageddon. I think I see what they're doing here. Our clarified understanding of Matthew also adjusts our understanding of the hailstone. Oh, okay, so this is going to do something different. So they are going to be preaching right up until Armageddon. I guess that kind of tracks, to be completely honest with you, because when they made what I think is the most significant change to their doctrine by saying that after the governments of the world turn against every religion in the whole world, there's going to be this collective one world government motion to get rid of all religion, and everyone's going to agree. Doesn't matter if it's Canada, doesn't matter if it's America, Britain, doesn't matter if it's Iraq, wherever it is on planet Earth, we're all going to come together and agree to just outlaw religion, because that makes a whole lot of sense. Anyway, once that thing happens, that is going to initiate this Great Tribulation, which is a time before Armageddon. And previously, the Jehovah's Witnesses had said that when that thing happens, this gigantic one world government abolishing all of false religion, that was going to be the end. Sorry, Buster, you don't have a chance at everlasting life anymore, but I'm going to point and laugh at you because you're going to look real foolish as the Jehovah's Witnesses have these protective little bubble boy outfits that they're going to ride off into the new paradise with all the pandas and the melons. And yeah, so that was what they traditionally had taught. Then they made this ow, it's easy. Why? And then they made this massive adjustment and said that after there's this one world government and this one world government gets rid of all religion, that after that, people could still learn the truth or profess their faith in Jehovah. It's easy. You're going to have to stop. So people, they even had made the suggestion that some that had left the organization after having seen this. Okay, why don't you just go right there. That some people, even after they've left the organization, they might witness this and say, ooh, man, maybe I should sneak back in right before Armageddon so, I don't get slagged there. And so now it kind of tracks that they would want, or at least say that they're going to continue the preaching work even during the Great Tribulation, because there's still time for people to convert. Zizi, you're going to hit my microphone, and then it's going to make a horrible buzzing noise. Now, as part of the Jehovah's Witness lore, if you've been a witness for a long time, you'll remember that they had always talked about there was going to be this shift in the preaching where they were it's going to shift from a message of hope to a message of judgment. And just as I read there, it said the hailstone message. I think that is the symbolic thing in Revelation that they were referring to. This is really turning into a situation. So let's keep reading before I start yapping about that accidentally and they actually go and discuss it. Our clarified understanding of Matthew 24:14 also adjusts our understanding of the hailstone message foretold at Revelation 16:21. Further examination has revealed that I like how they say further examination. What were you examining before? New light is always just so frustrating. They just so obviously are making it up, but they're pretending that it's upon examination. No, you came up with something. Okay, further examination has revealed that the two scriptures complement each other. Well, of course they do. The answer lies in how people respond to the kingdom message. To those who are being saved, wrote the Apostle Paul, the message is good news, a fragrance of life, but to God's enemies it is bad news, an odor of death. They hate the kingdom message because it exposes their world for what it is, wicked, ruled by Satan, and headed for destruction. Note, too, that the symbolic hailstone will be unusually great. This suggests that during the great, it has the word great in it. Obviously, it must be talking about the Great Tribulation. The preaching work may become more hard-hitting. That is, Jehovah's name will be made known as never before. At that point in time, after the destruction of Babylon the Great, will some be drawn to the message as to a sweet fragrance? This is quite possible. Perhaps they may recall or learn that for many years Jehovah's Witnesses had announced the end of false religion. How are they going to be preaching when every religion on planet Earth is being done away with? What do they, when they close their eyes and start thinking about the actual function of that? I'm wondering what they're imagining. Well, I suppose it's just that. It's all in their imagination. Anyway, let's just speed run through this, and then I'll talk about it. By way of comparison, consider what happened in ancient Egypt following the 10 plagues. After Jehovah executed judgment on all the gods of Egypt, his people were joined by a vast mixed company of non-Israelites. These foreigners may have turned to Jehovah when they saw Moses' warnings about the 10 plagues come true. Any who turn to Jehovah after the destruction of Babylon the Great will have the privilege of doing good to Christ's brothers who will still be on earth. Of course, that opportunity to be judged as sheep will end shortly before Armageddon, blah, blah, blah. This clarified understanding powerfully illustrates Jehovah's great love and mercy. Yes, he does not desire any to be destroyed, but desires all to attain to repentance. So this isn't really anything huge or big. If I was a Jehovah's Witness reading this, I would be incredibly annoyed. Because you've always been looking forward to this time when you were going to have the final laugh. You were going to be able to wiggle your finger at all the naysayers and say, hey, we tried to warn you. We tried to tell you it was the truth, man. But you were too stupid to listen. And then you could go and have your what did the Romans have? The celebration with all the chariots. Man, my brain is not working. It's too late at night. The triumph. Was it just called a triumph? I think it was just called a Triumph. Anyway, you could waltz through the city having your little Triumph and shooting off fireworks and having a good old time, relishing in the idea that everyone that's not a Jehovah's Witness was going to be hit in the head with some fireballs from heaven. Now, you don't have that anymore. Now, instead, you are going to have to continue to preach to people after they have ignored you for the specified reason that your claims lack evidence. So you've been making claims for 40 years. You've been out here banging on my door 40 years. And then there's evidence, and it's like, oh, well, hot dog. I guess I'll jump on the bandwagon. Do you realize how annoying that's going to be for a Jehovah's Witness? They're just telling them, no, instead of having your victorious, like your victory lap, instead of the celebration and the parade and the triumph, instead of laughing in the streets, shaking your fists at people, saying, haha, I'm going to own your house, you're going to have to walk up to them and say, hey, now that there's this evidence, the reason that you've ignored me is the lack of evidence. Well, now that there is evidence, do you want to join? And then people will be able to say yes. Do you realize how irritating that would be? Because a Jehovah's Witness is going to say to themselves, wait, I could have just lived a happy, clappy life, just been a normal person, not had to follow all of these ridiculous rules, all of these internal desires that burn at my skull on a daily basis. I could have actually fulfilled. I could have had dreams and a career and a future that I could wake up in the morning and just look forward to advancing myself in this world, to being the pilot behind my ship instead of letting someone else, some old dude in New York do it for me. Could have had all of that, but no, you were a loyal Jehovah's Witness for absolutely nothing. I don't fully get where they're going with this. I'll be honest with you, because on the surface, it just deludes the whole idea of preaching. When they made this announcement that people could come in like the Egyptians, walk like an Egyptian, come like an Egyptian. I don't know. I don't think that dance is really going to take off. But hey, maybe in some circles. Comment down below what you would think what that dance would look like. Wow, how did we get here? Anyway, this is podcast Wally, so who knows what's going to come out of my mouth, but it's fine. Just bear with me. But you were like those Egyptians where they're like, oh man, all the evidence is clearly before us. This Yahweh dude seems a lot more powerful. I guess we'll join them. So it'll be the exact same thing. I don't know how that doesn't completely devalue the preaching work entirely. What's the point? Like truly and honestly, what is the point of preaching? Because instead of being blood guilty, like they were always taught, hey, do you not have 20 hours this month? Look down at your hands. There's blood on them. They would say that in their talks. I think Tony Morris said it at a convention. Said, if you haven't been out in service in a couple of weeks, look down at your hands. There is blood on them. Because you didn't fulfill your commission of being a good little Jehovah's Witness and knocking on people's door. That's how seriously they've taken this thing. Now, when you really think about it, there's blood on your hands if you do go out and preach. Because now you're making someone kind of sort of responsible. Instead of if you would have just left them alone, if you would never talk to them ever, they would have seen the evidence and said, oh, well, I guess I'll be like I'll come like an Egyptian and I'll jump ship and become a Jehovah's Witness. It only makes it a little bit more difficult, I suppose. But I, at the end of the day, this is just going to be like the most obvious sign ever. Every religion in the world is gone. There is a one world government, and the Jehovah's Witnesses are still allowed to preach. These set of circumstances are essentially never going to happen. Even it's upsetting ZZ how insane this is. So they must have some trick up their sleeve of bringing all of this around. Because to me, it just sounds like this is going to kick the can of urgency so far down the road that no one will even remember what it's like to be an urgent Jehovah's Witness anymore. Anyway, so those are just some of my random thoughts about this whole thing. When will the current preaching work end? Well, we have our answer. Never. It's never going to end. The religions will be around for a very long time. There's never going to be a one world government. So, sorry, Jehovah's Witnesses, if you were looking forward to stopping the preaching work at some point, you're going to have to wait for those two things first. And you better find yourself a very comfortable chair. With all of that being said, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. And you better have a good ass night, I guess, because it's like 10 o'clock now. Anyway, see you guys.